Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mission Employable podcast, where we're talking all things employment in the state of Iowa. I got my voice back, so that's great. The other thing that's great is that we're continuing our month-long series on National Disability Employment Awareness Month. With me, as always, as Kathy Leggett. Kathy, we're recording this episode a little early, but releasing it on my favorite holiday, which is Halloween.
Halloween.
So I have to ask, do you know what you're dressing as this year?
My go-to is a witch.
Okay.
Always, yeah.
Just year after year?
Year after year. Year after year, you can't go wrong with it.
No, it's a classic.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
That's so
Love
funny.
Halloween.
It's great. Well, we're really excited for Halloween, but also really excited to talk to our guest who we're meeting for the first time because he is brand new to the department. Our new Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Administrator, Dr. James Williams, is here with us today. James, welcome to not just the Mission Employable podcast, but welcome to Iowa.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
We're
Yeah.
excited to have you.
Because you are not from here originally. Tell us a little bit about your background. I know
I
you
just
Sure.
have to say, don't mess with Texas,
I know.
right?
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
I always
everybody
think of.
does
Yeah.
No, so I was born in Houston, Texas, raised there pretty much my whole life. Spent the last 10 years living in Austin in Central Texas, basically as the CEO of a provider in vocational rehab. So we worked with our VR agency in Texas to do employment services, supported employment, job placement, pre-et services, pre-employment transition services for those that don't know.
Sure.
And did that with based in Texas, but we work with 6 different state agencies. So 6 different VR partners. Texas was one of them. And since that time, of course, coming to Iowa for this opportunity, but going a little far back, I'm a former special ed teacher in public and private school, fell in love with transition, fell in love with helping people with disabilities, for really everybody, obtain job opportunities and really further themselves as part of that. And so that's kind of always been my background. But yeah, literally moving to Iowa, I think I got here 2 weeks ago. And I was telling Kathy, I was like, don't have a house yet. I will at the end of the month. But I will be moving here and just excited. Everybody's been really great.
That's awesome.
And of course I came during the best time of year, which helps because fall is incredible here. And,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
for anybody who's wondering, no, Texas does not have fall. Now, if anybody from Texas hears this podcast and says, yes, we do, you're lying. You know you are, because we don't. We have hot and green trees, and then we have no leaves on the trees and little bit cool. That's all we have. We do not have cold. We don't have colors. We don't have any of that. So really excited about that and glad to be here.
Yeah, real happy to have you here. So what kind of attracted you to this position? When you saw the posting, like what made you
Sure.
click and say, hey, I think I'm good for that?
To be honest, a couple of things. So one, my wife and I were looking for a place to raise our son that had a little stronger sense of community than the place we were living. A little bit, we wanted 4 seasons. We wanted a more of a kind of a setup that way. So I think Iowa in general and just this part of the country appealed to us. And then this particular role, just the opportunity. So, with this realignment with IWD and IVRS, we had this opportunity, or have really this opportunity to do things better, to be more efficient, to work in partnership with the AJCs, American Job Centers, to do, more collaborative work. And the chance to be the first really, well, technically not the first, but after the merger, the first person in this role to be able to do that and to kick that off is just really exciting to me. The other exciting piece is, Director Townsend has given me a lot of latitude in terms of, dream it and let's do it. And who wouldn't want to be a part of an opportunity like that? And so for me, that was really what attracted me at the end of the day and got me here is the chance to really make some change in a meaningful way and start building something that's special, not only in Iowa, but something that's special across the country that, in my opinion, that other states can then look at as a model.
Yeah.
We love that. We love that. And I think you're in the right place for that. So
Yes.
very excited. And yeah, just welcome again, because IWD is excited to be partnering and working as part of or with Voc Rehab as well. So I think this is off to a great start. So just to go a little further on that, do you have a vision for IVRS over the next 5 years?
Oh, sure. So it may change. I've been here 2 weeks, so
Yes.
ask me in 2 months and it may be different, but I'll give you the vision today.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The vision today is it's some pretty basic things. One, working more collaboratively, obviously, with our partners in the American Job Centers. We've got an amazing team. Linda and her team are incredible. They want to work with us. We want to work with them. So continuing to remove barriers that exist, that whether artificial or natural. I think that's one big vision that I see see, 5 years from now, us really, I think, getting over those barriers and truly having a unified workforce system, which was the goal of realignment from the governor. The second piece I think that's really crucial is being more efficient in the work that we do, right? Making sure that our field staff, so our IVRS counselors, our rehabilitation assistants, all our different levels of staff, that they're spending the majority of their time doing activities that relate directly to serving individuals, right? Not paperwork, not processes, not burdensome, compliance requirements, but getting those things as minimal as possible so they're spending more time with customers. So I think that's a real big piece. And I think the other piece that I'm really looking at is how we can develop relationships, even more strong ones across the state. So across different state agencies, stronger than we ever have been, but not just state agencies, NGOs, other nonprofit organizations. How can, we partner with them? I meet so many people. Yeah, I've been here, 2 weeks, and I've had so many people reach out to me and say, hey, I'd love to talk to you. Wonderful. Let's have those conversations. So I think that's a third piece is really us more entrenched and more connected across the state, both. And I think this is a key point too, not just in Des Moines, right, but also across the entire state. And I think that's one of the pieces that's really crucial to me is I want to make sure we're not just building a structure that fits here in an urban environment. I want to make sure we're building a structure for all Iowans that really reaches across the state.
That's great. You are spot on, I think, for so many things. So again, I think it's a sign you're in the right place at the
Good
right
deal.
time.
I hope so.
So also, it's kind of funny that your timing that you started here and it's this month, but we are talking about National Disability Employment Awareness Month. So can you tell us why you think it's important for us to recognize that month, not just as a state agency, but as a community?
I think in a lot of ways, it's the simple premise that people with disabilities can and should be viewed as a powerful part of this workforce, a necessary, vital piece of the workforce. And I think folks at IWD have known that for a while. I know folks at IVRS have known that for a long time. But I think it's spreading it, like you said, to the community, right? It's the community at large. And even across state agencies, there are state agencies that don't really have a lot of involvement on the disability side. That's okay, but they need to know about this month. They need to know that, they should be considering and looking at people with disabilities to fill some of their roles and some of their needs. So I think that's really crucial. I think also seeing it recognized at all different levels. So for example, on my first day, I worked with Michelle and our business team to go out to West Des Moines, and West Des Moines did a proclamation and we're able to educate the city council and then also the members of the community that were there. The governor, I believe, later this week is doing a similar thing. I think, all of those things also show that this is a concern, or not a concern, that sounds like it's a bad thing. This is on everybody's radar, right? Mm-hmm. That is what we want to know. So I think that's a big part of it. I think also too, the definition of disability in a lot of ways has changed as a society a lot in the last 10 to 15 years. We rewind even more, especially 20 years ago, and most people thought of a disability was something that was physical, something that was like, blindness or, a hearing impairment, deaf, all those different things. What we also understand, though, is disability is truly a spectrum, right? We've got people that are high functioning intellectually on the spectrum that have, social skills challenges, but are totally employable. We've got people with mental health disorders. We've got people with other types of more complicated health issues. And what we're realizing now is all of those individuals are a part of this workforce. They all have employability. They all have potential. And so part of, I think, Ending is really amplifying this unified kind of disability front, I would say, that it's something that we're looking at the whole population. We're not just looking at one group.
I think that's really important, because I think then really if we as individuals think, I think we'd be hard pressed to find an individual who doesn't know somebody who
Absolutely.
honestly is in that large continuum, but again, has so many skills and so much to offer. So
Absolutely. Well, and especially businesses. A great example I give. So, being a CEO of a provider in Texas for 6 years, and then across my career, it's amazing how many times I've talked to businesses, and that's the end, right? We talk to a manager at a store and we're talking about one of our clients and pitching them as a potential employee. And that manager says, oh, well, I have a son with autism. Sure. Well, we'll give him a shot. It's just amazing. So I agree. I think making those connections and realizing, and even from a statistical standpoint, statistically, many of us in our lifetime will experience a disability, whether it's an older age due to the aging process, or whether it's an accident or something, hopefully it doesn't happen, but it can happen.
Right.
All of those different pieces, we're all a part of that disability community in some way or shape or form at some point in our life. And recognizing that, I think you're right, is crucial.
Yeah. And why is it so important for Iowans with disabilities to have like an organization, like a state organization behind them advocating for them?
I think, in a lot of ways, we, and I'll talk about it from two different sides. So
Sure.
one side of it is services, right? I mean, a lot of the individuals we work with, they know us because we provide job services for them. We help them get jobs, all those different things. Same with the AJCs. And so the services are part of it, right? We do the work. But I think even more so, and to talk about what you said, advocacy, right? We're able to advocate with the governor's office, with all the different committees that are a part of state government that we're a part of that relate to disability, which, believe it or not, I'm learning there's quite a few of them here. I'm still learning them actually in this second week. So that's a part of it as well, right? Is making sure that people with disabilities are seen as an active voice in the community at the state government level, in the governor's office, all those different avenues. So I think that's a big part of it. I also think that people need to know who to go to, right? If you're somebody who moved from another state, just like me, if you don't know what your resources are in that state, it can seem like you have nowhere to go and no one to turn to. And that's not true at all. But again, people don't know what they don't know, right? So I think that's another piece too, is serving as kind of a touch point for a family or a person with a disability that moves here, and knowing that they have a support system, and that they don't have to do all of this on their own or with Google searching.
Right.
Yeah. You said something earlier that I kind of wanted to circle back with, and I thought that was kind of interesting. You're just talking about like the idea that we want to set this up where IVRS is successful both in like the urban areas and some of the more rural parts of the state, and those can be two different things.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to imagine that I feel like you probably have a pretty solid background and a plan for that, considering you're coming from Texas, where it's, again, there's a similar kind of setup where you have these, obviously larger urban areas than we have here, but that's still that the true, urban, suburban, and then very rural parts of Texas as well.
Absolutely. And it's a similar issue. I'd say the only difference is with Texas is there's just, because of its size, there's more space between those population centers. But as far as the effect that has, it's very similar. And what's interesting is one of the challenges that I think people struggle to wrap their brains around is, although how we're going to answer those needs are different in rural communities versus urban, the problem is honestly very similar, if not the same. We have employers that are down the street here, I'm sure in Des Moines, that don't fully understand how to access the disability workforce, just as much as we have a mom and pop, farm goods store in so-and-so, Iowa that has never thought about hiring a person with a disability. Again, not opposed to it, they just haven't thought about it. So I think we have to recognize that there's a common thread there between those rural, making a new word,
That's a good,
urban and rural areas. Hey, I'm going to combine them.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of it. Now, how we address the problem, though, is different. And one of the things that I will say I love, frankly, not just about Des Moines, but just Iowa in general, is the strong sense of community that we have here. And in your smaller communities, because they're just naturally smaller population, I feel like it's even stronger, right? So leveraging that and tapping into someone's community connections, it's amazing what opportunities you can unlock for an individual. And I know a lot of our field offices, we have 13 of them, by the way, across the state of Iowa. And so, yes, there's one near you, I promise. But as part of that, they know those communities, right? Our counselors, our staff in those offices way more than I ever will. And I'm not going to pretend that I don't, or that I do. But I think that's a big part of it as well, acknowledging common problem, but different solution. And yet leveraging those community partnerships is just going to be crucial for that, especially in the rural areas.
For sure. I mean, it reminds me of like, an example of like transportation. Some people don't have access to transportation here or in rural Iowa, and the solutions are different, right? Like,
yes,
maybe an employer in more urban areas can pay for, bus fare or carpools or things like that. Where in the rural community, you have to, think about some sort of like regional system or, paying for like gas cards to make it more affordable or things like that.
Absolutely.
But the whole idea is that there are solutions out there, and just kind of working together to access them, like you said, is the idea. Well,
and making sure we're involving that local community. I can't think that enough. One of the things that, is very important to me, at least while I'm leading the division, is that people don't feel that we're making decisions for them here in Des Moines and we're just, here you go.
Right.
Because it's very easy to feel that way. And I'll be honest, I lived in the capital in Texas, but I can't tell you how many times people would say, oh gosh, what's Austin going to tell us to do next? I'd hear that from counselors and other people. And I don't want that to be the perception here. So I think really making sure that we're tapping into, like I said, the expertise of our local area offices, our local AJCs. I think that is really crucial. because they know the community.
Yes.
And I think, I see them as the experts. While we may be the experts on translating the funding and the policy and the federal regulations and requirements to get the work done, sure, but we're not the experts on their community. And so we really want to make sure we're leaning on them and having it truly be a collaboration and not a directive. And that's one of the pieces I'm focusing on.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that will be really exciting for you, because I have had through my work here the opportunity to work at a grassroots level all across the state. And you are exactly right. We have amazing communities.
Yes.
And it's really fun. And they are so willing, and they have what they need, and a partnership is absolutely the way to go. So I'm excited for you to see some of that in our
definitely.
state.
I wanted to kind of ask, and this is kind of a general question and more of a philosophical thing, but like, why should employers make an effort to hire from this population?
Oh gosh, how much time do we have? There's a lot of reasons. But I'll pick the top 2 or 3.
Sure.
So the first one being, we know statistically people with disabilities tend to be a far more reliable workforce, right? They tend to show up more often. They tend to be more responsive. They tend to be more invested in a job. They call out for far less frequently. So as far as the chance of getting a good employee, frankly, picking from the population of people with disabilities, your chances are higher. And that's proven by statistics. That's not my opinion. So I think that's one piece. So the second piece, the current labor market we're in right now is incredibly challenging for all employers, okay? And this is nationwide. Actually, it's not nationwide. It's worldwide because of the post-pandemic era we live in. So I think acknowledging that and acknowledging that we have this incredible untapped workforce, right? A lot of employers, and I've had conversations with employers, feel like they're just, and these are their words, not mine, feel like they're scraping the bottom of the bowl to get just the basic employees they need to run, not fully staffed, but just at a skeleton level, right?
Yeah.
Well, what they're not thinking of is they have this untapped resource that's sitting right next to that bowl that has rich, diverse, fantastic employees in it who want opportunities. And so I think in this market, for employers, that's probably the best reason, right? Is this untapped talent we have, and this opportunity to really strengthen their workforce and really, diversify in ways that we wanted them to do maybe 10, 20, 30 years ago, but now they have a business incentive to do so. So I think that's the second piece. And then I think the third piece is recognizing ownership, right? At the end of the day, I've hired many people with great educations, great experience, great backgrounds, but frankly, in my opinion, that's not what makes a good employee. What makes a good employee is someone who's invested in the work. They want to be here, right? It's, they got to pay their bills. We all do, but they're here because they want to be. And you can't train that. You can't train want to be. They either want to or they don't. And so I think that's part of it. And I've worked with so many individuals, a population I'm thinking of off my mind at the moment is folks on the spectrum, but there's others as well, that, really are looking for a place, and they're looking for a place to belong, to have a meaningful connection to society and to the world. And work is one of the best ways I know of to do that.
Yep. No, those are, you said it so well. So, and I love the wording that you used, accessing the disability workforce. So we want all of our employers to do that. So,
Yes.
And I would love, just with your mission, that Iowa becomes the best state at doing that.
Yes.
I think we can. So
Absolutely. And we've got the right people in the room. I think one of the best things that this realignment did for us is it got us all in the same room. I'm not going to say we weren't talking before. Of course we were, but it's much harder when you're not in the same room. And so now having this opportunity, we can build this, not only this unified workforce, but we can take some of the things we've already learned and kind of push them further. So a good example I'll give, Mary Jackson, who's our transition program manager, has done truly incredible and honestly nation-leading work in transition. And if she can do that kind of work, there's no reason we can't translate that type of effort to the broader population, to all individuals, regardless of after transition age. And so I know if Mary can do that, we can do that as a division.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
And you say all in the same room together. We mean that like very literally. Like,
yes.
I had to move desks because we had people.
Literally,
from
we're in the
IVRS
same
coming
building. Don't come. I would tell people, come on down. Not yet, because we're not done yet. But talk to us in December, and then we'll tell you how it's going. But no, literally, and we're all moving under the same roof. And I know it's very stressful for people, and I understand that. And especially if any of our staff are listening, I hear you. Believe me, I do. But we have to do this because it's really the only way we're going to make it work.
Yes.
And I know a lot of people say, but people can work from anywhere. They can, but I'm telling you, there's nothing like being able to pop around the corner and ask someone a question. When you're that accessible to each other, it really does change the paradigm. And that's what this is doing.
All right. Well, thank you for letting us have some access to you and picking your brain on the topic. We're really excited to have you here. And like you mentioned earlier, we'll talk to you in a couple months and see how you're getting on.
Sounds good. Please do. Yes.
Now that you once you get your feet wet a little bit.
Awesome.
So James, again, thank you so much for swinging by the podcast.
Welcome.
We really appreciate
Welcome to
it.
Iowa.
Welcome to Iowa.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you both.